ये इसके ऊपर नहीं आ सकता, इस पर रख दें तो उस पर ये होगा कि अऊज़ु बिल्लाहि मिनश शैतानिर रजीम बिस्मिल्लाहिर रहमानिर रहीम व बिही नस्तईन इन्नहु खैरु नासिरिन व मुईन व सल्लल्लाहु अला मुहम्मदिन व आलिहि ताहिरीन व लअनतुद दाइमतु अला अअदाइहिम अजमईन मिनल आन इला यौमिद्दीन व बाद इलाही अंतिकनी बिल हुदा वल्हिमनी बित्तक़वा सलावत सल्लल्लाहु अला मुहम्मद व Today, I'd like to discuss the verse in the Quran, which is in Surah Furqan, and the verse number is 67. In this verse, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَالَّذِينَ إِذَا أَنفُقُوا لَمْ يُسْرِفُوا وَلَمْ يَقْتَرُوا وَكَانَ بَيْنَ ذَلِكَ قَوَّامًا. Now, this verse refers to the people who do israf, who are wasteful. So Allah says, and then there are those who extravagantly spend when they're spending, when it comes to spending, they do it, they go beyond the limits and they overspend. But then there are those who keep a balance between spending too much and then because Allah talks about two kinds of people, the people who spend a lot and they spend so much that it becomes uh, becomes israf, which is wasting the money. And then there are people who spend very less and they spend so less that they are called misers, stingy people, right? So Allah says, but then there are those who keep a balance. So there are three kinds of people that Allah is discussing about. Number one, the first category are the people who spend so much that their spending becomes wasteful. It's a waste spending that much. And then there's the second category that spend very less, even less than it is required. Like it is required to spend $100 and they spend like about $1. So that guy would be called stingy, a miser guy. And then there's the third party. The third party is the one that keeps a balance, and that is called i'tidal. So these are the people that Allah likes, the people who don't spend too much and this people who spend too little. This kind is neither of those two. But the people who spend a lot and they do israf, they're wasteful. In Kafi, there is a riwayat, Surah Kafi. إنما الإسراف فيما أتلف المال وأضر بالبدن بالبدن says that the people who do a lot of israf, the people who waste their money, it brings damage. It is damaging not just to the people, it is also damaging to the property. Now, globally, it is a recognized thing that crime in itself can broadly be categorized as either against property or against individuals, right? With examples of including theft and things like that. So therefore, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that israf, if you do a lot of israf, in this hadith, in Kafi, the Ma'asum says that if you are doing israf, then it damages your assets, it damages your wealth, alaykum assalam. It damages you, and it also damages who? It damages individuals. So the damage is on both sides. The damage is to human life, and the damage is to property and assets. So israf is something that is highly damaging. And then in another verse, which is in Surah Araf, and the verse number is 31. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Ya Bani Adama, خذوا زينتكم عند كل مسجد وكلوا واشربوا ولا تسرفوا إنه لا يحب المسرفين. Allah says, oh sons of Adam, when you go to the mosque, when you go to worship, make sure that you look okay, that you look modest, your clothes are clean, and you look nice when you're going, because you're going to be standing before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So therefore, according to this verse, whenever you're even alone, when you are praying salat, when you're going to pray, you're standing on the sajjadiyah, you're doing namaz, make sure that you look well. And that's why it is mustahab to comb your hair, to wear nice clothes and clean clothes when you're standing before your Lord. And the other part says, وَكُلُوا وَاشْرَبُوا وَلَا تُسْرِفُوا. Eat and drink, but do not be wasteful. Israf is bad, right? Allah, eat and drink. Why does Allah say eat and drink? He could have said that don't be wasteful. He's saying eat and drink. It basically means that all of the ni'mats, all of the things that you see around yourself, they're not for kuffar. The kuffar are using it, but Allah did not want the mu'mineen to be denied of these valuable things. Like for example, good meals, good house, a good car, a good life. So a good life, Allah says there's nothing wrong with leading a good life. Certain people become too, what you say, like khush muqaddas, like the Iranians say. What is that like? They say everything, Allah does not like israf. That is israf. This is israf. Don't do this. Don't do that. No. Allah says, Kulu washrubu. Eat and drink. The best food that you can think of, if you can afford it, go for it. But don't waste it. Right? Like if you need in your house, let's say 5 pounds of meat in a week, you bring 20 pounds of that meat. So what's going to happen to the rest of the 15 pounds? You're going to just throw it away, dump it in the trash. That is a waste. That is israf. That Allah does not like. Right? So if you're kind of a guy who likes to have good food, Allah says, have good food, but don't waste it. Right? Kulu washrabu innahu la yuhibbul musrifin. Says Allah does not like the people who do israf. It is haram, therefore, to do israf. But just the opposite of israf, these are the two extremes. On one side, you find people who do israf, and on the other side, you find people who are stingy, who are misers, and they don't want to spend anything, even upon themselves, upon their family, and on anyone else. And that is bukhl in Arabic. So in Ghurur al-Hikam, we have a hadith from the Ma'asum. It's narrated there, and it says, Al-Bukhlu bil-Mawjood su-zan bil-Ma'bud. He says, when you are stingy with what? With the wealth that has been given to you by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You've got a lot of wealth. Look at me, kids, look at me. You got a lot of wealth, right? And Allah has given you a nice house, Allah has given you a lot of money, you've got money in your accounts, and your bank accounts are full and everything. But then you don't want to spend. You don't want to give out charity. You don't want to help the poor people back home, or even over here, or anywhere in the world. You don't want to help the poor. Well, somebody comes up to you and says, well, you got millions of dollars in your account, right? So what we need is, we are from a certain charity and we are helping out certain poor people. We just need $100 donation from you. And this guy turns out and says, no, I'm sorry, I can't do it. Come some other day. Come some other time, I'm busy. Makes excuses and he doesn't want to do it. But then one day he decides to do it and he gives $1. So what are people going to say? This guy is stingy, man. I mean, come on, dude. You should have given more. Now, these kind of people, in this hadith, it says, if you are being stingy while you've been given wealth, you've been been given a lot of wealth from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you got assets and everything, and you're sitting upon those assets, you're sitting upon the wealth that has been given to you by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that wealth, who is the owner of that wealth? It actually belongs to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It is Allah's. Everything belongs to Allah, right? Now He has given you the authority to use it. And now you're sitting on top of it. While sitting on top of it, if you're stingy, then that means that you do not think well about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You're not thinking positively about your Lord. So what does it mean? It means that why would anyone become stingy? Because he's scared. If this goes, it goes. I will never have that back again. So the money that leaves my pocket or leaves my account will never come back to me. If I spend in the way of Allah, if I help the poor, this money is gone. Then it won't come back. He's forgetting that Allah is Raziq. It is Allah who gave you this money in the first place. It wasn't yours. How did you become the owner of this wealth? Allah gave it to you, right? So you didn't have it in the first place. So if Allah gave it to you in the first place, if you spend it in the way of Allah, if you spend it on a charity, if you spend it on poor people, then do you think that Allah is not going to give it to you? If even when you have made Allah happy, so that means that you are thinking negatively about Allah. You are not thinking positively about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Salawat ba Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Any question? We have just 1 minute left. Mushi, Hassan. Yeah, quickly. Just 1 minute left.
So, for example, someone has a lot of money, but they buy something that they really don't need. Maybe they already have a car and they decide to buy another car for no reason. Is that considered wasting?
Yes, it is. That's a waste.
They can afford it, but they still buy it even though they don't need it.
Very good question. That's a beautiful question. And yes, that is wasting money. If you don't, buying something that you don't need is a waste, is israf. Salawat wa Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Thank you. Somebody was listening. Thank you.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الله أكبر الله أكبر